Shohei Ohtani is healthy, and that should terrify anyone who isn't a Dodgers fan.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? I'm Harry Ruiz. That's Travis Rodgers, and it's time for Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. On today's show, baseball's top union leader is reportedly out with a labor battle on the horizon. A tough but calculated opening day decision involving Tommy Edman. But first, Travis, a fully healthy Shohei Ohtani is stepping up into a true two-way season.
Yeah, it's the first time we've gotten to see it from the jump where he's able to do both of the things. And if this is him fully unleashed, I can't wait to see it.
You can catch Travis every weekday afternoon holding it down on 710 ESPN LA from 3 to 6 on the Travis and DeMarco Show. You're not in Southern California? Well, no problem. Stream it anywhere on the ESPN LA app and stay connected wherever you are. For me, when I'm not on the mic calling USC football in Spanish, this is where I live and breathe Dodgers baseball, breaking it all down with you every single day. If you're new to the show, we're glad you're here. And if you're an everydayer, you already know this community is what makes it go. Watching on YouTube, tap like, subscribe, and jump into the comments so you're part of the conversation. Listening on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, that quick 5-star review goes a long way in helping more Dodger fans find us. And don't forget, the Locked On Dodgers listener line is always open, 2793-LOCKED. That's 279-356-2533. Call or text anytime and be a part of the show. We actually will have a voicemail coming in later this week. Fully healthy Ohtani offseason has arrived. If you need proof that baseball is back, you got it. Hundreds of people are crowding the backfields over not at Dodger Stadium, over in Arizona to watch Shohei Ohtani play catch. Not a game, not a bullpen in October, catch, swinging that bat, getting ready. And he's stepping up on the mound. He's going over at the batter's box. It's like, Travis, we needed this injected in our veins. And this is truly his first normal offseason since he signed that historic deal with the Dodgers. Tell me, as a former baseball player, when you go into an offseason, not focusing on rehab, but in prep, how different is that for you?
Yeah, it's very different. You're just getting ready to play as opposed to getting ready to play and trying to make sure that your body is performing at the level that you need it to perform at. And look, I think I don't know if I'd want to say, Harry, that we don't talk about it enough, because we actually do talk about it, but I don't know if it's appreciated enough, which is Shohei Ohtani might be more in tune with his body than any athlete that we've seen in a really long time. Because think about it, like even other great athletes who have gone through some things, there are some archetypes, there are some examples of what you need to do to perform at a high level. You know, if you want to play basketball, you know, you model yourself after Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant or whatever it is. If you want to be a football player, you model yourself after Aaron Donald or you know, Brett Favre or whatever it is that you're trying to do. Nobody's ever done this, right? No one's ever done the pitching routine. Like, he can't say, okay, I want to be a top flight pitcher. I'll model myself after Clayton Kershaw. Okay, I want to be the best slugger in baseball. I'll model myself after Aaron Judge. What if you're both? And that's what he is. So he's got to make this up as he goes along. He's got to figure out what works for him in real time. And you know, he's gotten hurt. So, but again, I don't think that's anybody's fault, because we're asking him to do something that's never been done, and every pitcher gets hurt along the way. So, it's refreshing. It's exciting. I can't imagine what the highest highs may be, knowing that he can just come in and refine his skills rather than making sure that his body is healing up the way that it is, because he's healthy for the first time in a couple of seasons.
He's been under the knife with Tommy John surgery twice already in his career. He got hurt sliding into second base in Game 2 of the World Series in 2024, and but that's the reason why he wasn't 100% healthy going into the 2025 offseason. But right now, he already got ramped up last season in a Major League Baseball game, or many Major League Baseball games, going up until being able to be the qualified pitcher up all the way until late August after starting in May. And it's like, okay, that's good. Now there's no limitations for what he can do, what he can't do. It's just go out there and play. 2023, his last season with the Angels, he got hurt towards the end of the year. He didn't pitch in 2024 because of that. And then in 2025, he did. Right now, it's like, hey, just go out there, be yourself. Yes, you got that wrench thrown in there. That is the World Baseball Classic, which will be a little stop. We still don't know exactly when he's going to be heading over to Japan, because Team Samurai's first couple of their group stage is over there in Japan. And it's not just like grabbing a private jet from LA to Miami. That's a long trip all the way to Japan. So you need to get ready for that. You can't just show up a day before the first game and be like, okay, I'm ready, let's go. So that's going to be something that, I mean, even look at Shohei. He was the first guy out there early February in Arizona before pitchers and catchers reported. He was out there already shooting commercials, doing interviews for his kids' book, but also preparing. And that's something big where any other guy, Travis, maybe would have been like, okay, when do pitchers and catchers report? I might show up a day or two before. Shohei was there way before that. That shows his commitment, where good is not good enough. Great isn't good enough. He wants to go above and beyond, because there have been players who have pitched and bat at the same time in the past, but not at the level that Shohei Ohtani is doing it, where he enters the GOAT conversation way before he turns 32 on July 5th. And people are already calling him the GOAT of baseball for what he has done even before getting into his mid-30s.
Yeah, no, he's getting close. I mean, he's entered the conversation, that's for sure. And again, he's not just getting ready for a season. He's not just getting ready to go, try to defend an MVP, or the two-time MVP, or getting ready to go win the World Series for the third time in his career, the third time in a row. He's chasing history. And the only way you do that is by preparing at a level that is not like everyone else. I was told that he was out and he was the first one to get there. He's been there since the beginning of February. He's the first one in. He's the last one out. All of these stuff, that he's just a relentless preparer, and he's really good at taking care of his body. And this is not make the team. This is not win an MVP. This is run down the greatest players in the history of a sport that's been around about 150 years. So it's not like he's just trying to do some stuff that's pretty normal. He's trying to do stuff that is incredibly abnormal. And so far he's on track. I think the interesting thing is, how long can he do it? Right. Because like you mentioned, Harry, he's gotten hurt quite a bit, especially, with his arm. And thankfully, it has never really affected his offense. He's been able to continue to swing a bat despite having a bad arm, even when he's gotten his arm surgically repaired. And I'm assuming the great fear would be is if he did have another arm injury, does it take him out of the lineup altogether? That the arm injuries he's had have not. They've allowed him to continue to be a DH. And at some point, do you make a decision like, look, as good as he is as a pitcher, and it's not just like he's in the rotation, he's an elite pitcher. Do you just protect himself from himself by saying, we're just going to be an offensive player at some point? I do think that's going to happen eventually. I don't know when, but the next injury, and again, that's just the way it goes. Pitchers get hurt. It happens to all of them. And so he's not unlike anybody in that regard. But I think that's the big question, is how long can he continue to carry this workload? Because no one's ever carried it. Ruth is the other guy that we talk about. Ohtani's already done way more on the mound than Ruth ever did. Now, Ruth obviously had the career that he had as a slugger, and Ohtani's a long way from Ruth as a slugger, but he's already surpassed him on the mound, and we're in uncharted territory. So that he's out there grinding it out and getting ready is no surprise. It's the only option, really.
Especially what you were talking about. It's like focusing on one side instead of both. When you're a team as deep as the Dodgers, in great part because of Ohtani deferring almost 95% of his contract for after he's done with this 10-year deal. He's like, hey, look, let's do the contract. Let's structure it this way, build super teams or bring in people to help me win those championships. When you have a rotation that's built with Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Blake Snell, Tyler Glasnow, Roki Sasaki, Emichi, and all those young guns that are waiting behind him, it's like you don't need to have Ohtani on the mound every 6 days or once a week for all of the season. Because when he was with the Angels from 21 to 23, you add those starts, less than a sub-3 ERA. Limited time last year on the mound for the Dodgers, sub-3 ERA. When you talk about a pitcher having an ERA below 3, Travis, you're usually like, that's a guy that's in the Cy Young conversation. And he's not campaigning for it. He's like, hey, if I'm healthy enough to win it, that means that I did my job. And this is a man that he loves having goals, but not being just like focused. He's like, let's win. And if I'm doing my job, then all those awards are going to come because I'm going to be doing my job. 50-50 with home runs and stolen bases in 2024, MVP. 50-50 with home runs and batters struck out in 2025, MVP. World Series champions in both. It's like, hey, the three-peat is the goal right now. And this guy is superhuman. And the best part is that now we get a Shohei Ohtani with no restrictions, with no limitations, with no kiddie bars. It's like, dude, just go ahead, do yourself. And like you said, Travis, I agree. There's a point where it's like you got to protect him from himself.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what the goals are for this year. I can't even imagine what they might be, right? Like you said, this is the first time he's come in with the road wide open ahead of him. And we know that he doesn't think small. He thinks nothing but incredibly big. And there's nothing you could tell me that in the back of his mind, if he's like, I want to go do X, Y, Z, I wouldn't bet against him because he's done everything he's set out to do.
And unlike when he was an OC, he has a great support cast around him that he knows that he doesn't have to carry this team on his shoulders, that if he has an off day, hey, you go 0 for 4, 0 for 5, it's going to happen. I remember my first time watching him in person with the Dodgers against the Nationals, Jackie Robinson Day 2024. He went 0 for. I'm like, man, I came all the way to LA to watch him play, and he didn't get a single hit. Next night, bam, hitting home runs. I was like, well, it's just baseball. Baseball's going to happen, but this guy, he is superhuman, and I can't wait to see a complete season of him. Hopefully nothing happens, and I'm knocking wood over here on my desk. Nothing happens in the WBC, and he comes back still at 100%. Let us know, you in the comments. Let me know, you're watching on YouTube, what you think his stat line is going to look like in 2026 now that he has no restrictions in the offseason. All right, next on Locked On Dodgers, somebody that does have restrictions is Tommy Edman, who will not be ready for opening day. Which kind of ripple effects does it have across the roster?
Tax season does not have to take over your life. It's true, because this year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move along with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or the guesswork. So instead of spending hours, yes, hours, it can take that long, trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person, or you can connect online if that's your preference. They handle all of it, from W-2s to self-employed forms, and work to get you every deduction available. So you can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in that TurboTax app. It is a huge time saver, and it gives you real peace of mind knowing that an expert is handling all of it. So for a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in if a TurboTax expert did not file for you last year. Just file by February 28th. So take the taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today.
Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Dodgers with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more. All for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to LockedOnDodgers.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. Edman sidelined, but This is about October. The Dodgers are playing the long game because Tommy Edman will open the season on the injured list as he continues recovering from ankle surgery. And honestly, this shouldn't shock anyone. He did say at FanFest that he was keeping hope alive to be available for the start of the season, but the timing of the surgery, the type of surgery, the recovery curve, it always felt like it was optimistic at best and a long shot. But here's what matters right here, Travis. This isn't about a March. It's about burst. And Edman's value isn't just his bats. It's his first step, his explosion, his ability to go from 0 to full speed without hesitation. And if you got a bad wheel, that's tough to do.
We talk so much about the Dodgers' economic power and their ability to go sign players and their ability to hand out long-term contracts and their willingness to defer giant sums of money. And that's all true. But what their economic might has allowed them to do more than any of this other stuff is what we're talking about right now, which is allow one of their starting players, one of their, a guy that was an NLCS MVP a couple of seasons ago, a guy that's a very important part of what they do, to put him on ice for as long as they need to, and not for 1 second think that it's going to affect their chances of winning that division or going to the postseason. I'm not suggesting that this is what's going to happen. And I hope that it's not. Tommy Edman could miss the entire regular season and it wouldn't affect the Dodger bottom line at all. And he's an important part of what they do. That's probably true with every single player in that lineup, with the exception of Shohei Ohtani. That he's the one guy like, okay, it changes things a little bit just because of how dynamic of a player he is. This is what that roster allows them to do. Not just to sign Edwin Diaz, not just to sign Kyle Tucker. It allows them to take all of those guys and say, take as much time as you need. Do whatever it is you need to do. Get that ankle 100% healthy. Make sure that shoulder isn't sore. Make sure that little wrist thing that you got heals up the best that you can. Make sure that you are 100% ready to go starting around September 1st. And let's play the month of September as crisply and as sharply as we can. So when we get in October, we're ready to go. Tommy Edman will play for this team. He will play well, but this is the luxury that comes along with all of this other stuff. That by getting all of these players, by having this roster, it allows you to be patient. It allows you to give your guys as much time as they need. Tommy Edman will come back. He will play very well, and everybody will be thrilled to see him. But if he's not ready at the beginning of the season, it's okay, yeah, cool. I mean, take your time, get ready to go. We'll be here. We'll be waiting. And by the time you get back, guess where they'll be? They're going to be in first place.
And we remember last year, he wasn't at 100% and he was available for opening day. He actually hit a home run at the U.S. opening day at Dodger Stadium for the Dodgers that helped them beat the Detroit Tigers. But then shortly afterwards, you saw his production start dipping. He tried to grind through it and it didn't work, both with his bat and defensively. His flexibility tightened. So the Dodgers clearly don't want a compromised version of him, because then that puts you in a tougher decision when it matters most. When it's October, that's not the point where you want to be like, okay, who do I play? Ha-seong Kim, Alex Freeland, Miguel Rojas, because Tommy Edman isn't available. It's better to be asking about these guys who are all great players, who I want to see a lot of Kim at second base whenever Edman isn't available, because I feel that he has a lot of potential. I love his speed. If he can get his bat back to when he started, when he made his debut in the big leagues and not before pitching adapted to him, if you can get him back to that level, I feel like Kim would be a perfect fit for the Dodgers right there. And he feels more comfortable in a middle infield position instead of being out at center field. So I feel that he would be great. But Miguel Rojas, he's as stable comes. And then if he gets consistent at bats, we've seen that he can do damage. And Freeland, he's a guy that's one of the top prospects for the Dodgers for a reason. So you have options on options. And to have Edman be the best one of them all, it's like, okay, let's just have him ready whenever it comes. So right now there's a competition at second base. Travis, if you had to pick out of those three guys that I just brought up, one that you would like to see get that start on opening day and be the guy that gets more play over the other two, who would you go with?
Who I would go with is Freeland. Who the Dodgers will go with is Rojas. Rojas will get the nod because he's Miguel Rojas, right? He's been around for a while. He's the World Series hero. It's the beginning of the season. Like, Miguel Rojas is going to get that nod for sure. If he's healthy, Miguel Rojas will start that game. I'd go with Freeland simply because I think he's the one we know the least amount about, right? That we know exactly what Miguel Rojas is. And I mean that as a compliment. I mean that as he is a pro's pro who's going to be ready to go at the most important time. He's going to make the plays. He's going to handle the bat. He's going to lead on the field, all of that stuff. That's great. Kim is a little bit less known, right? Kim struggles offensively. He can run. He's versatile, but he looked like he's a little overmatched at the plate. Maybe he can figure that out and catch up with them, major league pitching and become a viable offensive player. Time will tell, but it does feel like he was a little over his skis offensively there. Freeland, I think, is unknown, and that's why I would like to see him the most. I would like to see what he looks like with a nice long run of at-bats against major league pitching. We've seen him in little fits and starts here and there, and I think it's been mostly positive, but it's so hard to tell if a guy can play in the big leagues or not unless you give him a lot of runway to figure out whether or not he can play in the big leagues. So that's what I'd like to see, but I bet you just about everything I have that, assuming health, that Miguel Rojas, especially on opening day, considering how last year ended, is going to be your second baseman.
And here's the deal, too. The Dodgers, they need situational value. That means matchups. That means flexibility. So it won't just be one guy taking that charge. It's whoever fits best for who's pitching, for the way that other team has that bullpen built up, the lefty-righty situation. So it's going to be a chess match for Dave Roberts every single day to figure out, when you don't have Tommy Edman, to see who you end up putting up there for the Dodgers. But the choice is clear, Travis. You want 85% Edman in March or 100% Edman in September? The decision is easy right there, and the Dodgers have already made it. Dave Roberts announced Tommy Edman is starting the season off in the injured list.
Well, think about it. So he's going to start the season, getting healthy. Blake Snell is almost certainly going to start the season getting healthy. He's not going to be, and this, I mean, here we go again. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Not like oh my God, here we go again. No, here we go again. We're gonna get ready for what matters most, and March baseball is not what matters most.
No doubt about it. All right, coming up on Locked On Dodgers, there's instability at the top of the players' union just months before the CBA expires. What does the leadership shakeup mean for negotiations for a potential lockout? Don't forget to follow Locked On Dodgers, not only on YouTube, but on X, Instagram, and TikTok as well. You can find Travis on social media at Travis Rodgers on X and Instagram. Meanwhile, I'm at Harry Ruiz on X, at Harry_Ruiz on Instagram, and at Harry Ruiz_ on TikTok. Labor clouds gathering over baseball. While spring optimism fills camp, there's something looming over the entire sport. Leadership uncertainty inside the Major League Baseball Players Association, because early this morning, reports indicate that Executive Director Tony Clark is stepping down ahead of what is expected to be an intense CBA negotiation, which the negotiations are expected to start in either April or May, ahead of the current agreement expiring on December 1st. So, Travis, with Clark stepping away, the question becomes, who leads the union into this next battle, and how does instability hurt the players who want to keep baseball as the lone major pro sport in the U.S. without a salary cap?
Yeah, so the who, I think, is going to take care of it. I doubt they would make a move like this without having somebody else that they want to slide right in, because this is an incredibly important time, as we all know, with the current labor agreement expires on December 1st. And they got to get something figured out, or we're going to miss time. So the who, I think, is probably going to be pretty quickly solved. The why, I think, is more interesting, and what it does for the negotiation that is coming up. Quite frankly, this gives me a little bit of optimism that maybe might not have been there before. That I do think that the ownership group and the players union has to realize, and I'm just speculating here, I haven't spoken to anybody that's told me this, but they have to realize that baseball is in a place right now that it hasn't been in a while. Baseball is really healthy. Baseball is very popular. Baseball, I think, can make an honest argument that as we sit here right now in early 2026 is the second most popular sport in this country. And that hasn't been true for a long time. The NFL is, it's King Kong. It's so far out in front. Nobody's catching the NFL in our lifetime, that's for sure. But the NBA passed Major League Baseball a while ago, and I think baseball has caught the NBA again. For them to take a backward step and miss games, for them to have a very public, ugly fight over money, right? And again, you have millionaires fighting billionaires, and for reasons that I don't quite understand, the public seems to side with the billionaires rather than the millionaires. I don't know why, but they do. And I think that they both understand that killing the sport or stopping the sport or having an ugly fight publicly would be bad for everybody. And maybe the players union, I don't think that they're ever going to sign up for a salary cap, but I do think that there's a world that exists where they change the rules a little bit to allow the bottom to come up a little bit and maybe put a little bit of a guardrail near the top, that maybe having a new face in negotiation, maybe having somebody with a fresh voice might be a little more capable of getting that across the finish line. I hope that's what it is. I hope it's not the opposite, which is Tony Clark was more open to a solution and that they pushed him out because they're going to draw a line in the sand and say, no way, no how are we ever going to have any sort of salary restrictions? Because if that's the case, then we're in deep, deep trouble. But it would be a drag if they do something to this sport, because for the first time since I was a kid, like I'm talking, 10, 11, 12 years old, baseball is popular, and baseball is popular among casuals that it hasn't been in a long time. And they need to be aware of that. And do not strangle the golden goose right now, because it's laying a lot of eggs.
Yeah, not wait until you are in the best position you've been in a lot of years to then be like, okay, we're going to stop for a couple of months. You can't afford that. And here are two fascinating parts of this story. So Clark's resignation comes in the wake of the Eastern District of New York's investigation of alleged financial improprieties at the union. That's part one. And then part two is that today, Tuesday, was supposed to be the start of his tour around spring training facilities to talk with players around teams. At 6 a.m., the Cleveland Guardians, who were going to be the first stop, they were told, oh, Tony Clark ain't coming in. And he actually resigned. And it's like, what? It's literally February 17th, and you're talking about negotiations starting in 2 months, and you're going to have a new voice in there. And it's like, I feel that leadership matters in moments like this, and you would like to have continuity and have the tone, strategy, and the unity shape the outcomes. Now you got the top guy out of there. I feel that for players, this isn't a positive, but we will see, because there's guys like Bruce Meyer, who's been heavily involved in prior negotiations, who will more than likely step up and be involved in it too. But I would love to hear, once the players start talking, when they get asked today about it over at spring training, what their opinion is about it, because this is a move that is questionable in my opinion. But you look about the lawsuit and everything going on, Travis, there's two sides to the story, and one is going to be looking different than the other very soon.
Yeah, look, the legal trouble that Tony Clark is having could clearly have something to do with this. Maybe it doesn't, but it certainly seems like, they're 1 + 1 = 2 in this regard. But the reason that you mentioned this earlier, Harry, the reason that the major leagues is the one sport where it is a non-cap league is because of the players union, right? It's the players union is unbelievably unified. It is unbelievably strong. It is unbelievably well-funded, and they are resolute. They do not waver. That the reason there is a cap in the NFL and in the NBA and in the NHL is because their unions blinked. The baseball union has never blinked, and I think that is one of their operating principles. And whoever ascends to that top chair, they know the marching orders. Now, they're going to have to be a little bit flexible. Maybe it's not a cap. I don't think it will be, but some sort of structure that levels it a little bit. It doesn't take those big contracts off of the table. Guys are always going to get paid, but it levels it a little bit. But the reason they don't have it, that union, even if the head of the snake gets chopped off, there's another head that grows really quickly, and they're going to pick the guy that's going to sing from the same hymnal. So I think this is interesting, to be sure, But I think if anything, it's probably a pretty positive development for peace, because everybody just wants to get this done, hopefully. And the owners know the players aren't going to change their tune just because Tony Clark isn't there anymore.
Yeah, and look, it's too early to predict outcomes, but it's not too early to recognize this. The next couple of months are going to help define baseball's financial landscape for a long time, for a decade more than likely, and that matters a lot. So hopefully everybody is level-headed. Hopefully everybody goes in not thinking, I want to lock these guys out, and hopefully the owners and the players get on the same page, and we don't go into December 1st when the CBA expires saying like, oh crap, how long is this going to take? Is it going to be 99 days like the last one? Or is it going to take some time off of the regular season like it has in the past, where we even lost the World Series previously? All right, that'll do it for today's pod. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. On tomorrow's show, we're hitting the listener line because we were asked, which prospects, which rookies are you looking forward to keeping your eye on during spring training that could make an impact on the Dodgers in 2026? So don't miss tomorrow's show. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Dodgers at free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to LockedOnDodgers.supercast.com to join the club. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 national Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make your second listen of the day Locked On MLB. We appreciate you riding with us. Until next time, keep it real, keep it Dodger Blue.